Good evening and welcome to Real Talk on SABC 3, where the stage is yours. Tonight we're discussing the issue of abortion from a safe and stigma-free perspective with medical professionals and women who've undergone an abortion themselves. The moral question of whether an abortion should take place or not is often a non-progressive one, considering the fact that an abortion or termination of pregnancy is such a complex issue and one at the heart of a woman's rights to choice. So joining me is Refilwe Sisiane as well as Lebogang Mutsumi. Both of them have been vocal about their own experiences. Welcome to Real Talk, ladies.
Hi, Azania. Thank you.
Lebogang, I'm going to start with you because not too long ago, you wrote quite a detailed thread talking about your abortion and your sexual experience. Just take me through some of those details for those that haven't seen it.
So I was lying in a hospital bed and I just thought, I've been sharing my story since back in the day. I can't remember how long though. And I just thought, let me just write this thread, you know, it just was something that I just spontaneously did. And in my thread, I spoke about how I engaged in sexual activity from a young age. At 13, I spoke about my first abortion and all the other abortions I had. Spoke about my HIV infection and how I've kind of been managing it, but I didn't go too detailed because I'm taking a book out, so it was kind of like trying to see. But again, I felt the need to speak, you know, because
Why? What did you want other women to get out of that experience?
I think I engaged with young women who are just living under the rock, you know, from self-judgment, from self-shame. Some feel they're murderers, some feel they're dirty and whatnot. And of course, I went through that, you know, after termination. But then when I started reading more, when I started knowing more about my sexual reproductive health rights, when I started being empowered, then I understood what I did really was just a medical procedure and I had all right to do that. But of course, being a Christian again, coming from a Christian home, it was like, you've just done this taboo thing type of thing. And you are made to feel you are a bad, dirty person. And I want young women to be able to be free. You know, you don't have to share your story. If you feel you want to do it, it's good for the next person. But then again, I just want that self-contentment and being able to say, you know what, I made this choice, I'm content with it, and I'm moving on with my life. Yeah,
you did something that I don't think I could, or a lot of people wouldn't be able to do. And opening up the conversation, the reaction must have been intense. Absolutely intense.
It's Black Twitter, Black Twitter. Look, it was intense, right? But I have to say there's a message I got which I cried after reading it. You know, this young girl, she's one of the girls who are supposedly called slay queens, whatever that is, you know. And she shared her story and she's like, as I speak to you right now, I'm due for my 9th abortion tomorrow, you know. And I gave her my number, we spoke over the phone, but then she's just broken. She's very broken, you know. And of course I got negative reactions, people calling me names, but I believe what people think about me doesn't define me. You know, I define myself and what I believe in type of thing. And I'm not gonna stop sharing my story until a Black African woman is confident enough to take her own sexual reproductive health rights
take charge of it
without being stigmatized or without being made to feel somehow.
So how many have you had? You referenced the lady who had 9.
I tried the first one when I was 16. I was 7 months, backdoor abortion. It wasn't successful, but then I gave birth to a premature baby who passed away. And then I did the other 3 backdoor also from the guy who infected me, and the other 2 were from a boyfriend who just apparently was married in another country and I didn't know and whatever. So I had to undergo that. So it was 4.
4 all in all.
Yeah, but 1 was government facility and the 3 was backdoor.
Right. Why did you go the backdoor route?
Because of the stigma in the clinics. Because you get to a clinic at 8 and they tell you will only take the first 10, so you must come tomorrow at 4 a.m. You get preached at type of thing. You get told, you are made to feel that you're dirty. And when you go to these back doors, give them your money and they do what they need to do.
It's a transactional.
And it's done. There's no support type of thing, you know. And they're shouting at you, hitting your legs and just making you feel, oh my God, I'm doing a horrible thing. So for me, going back door was the only choice. And of course, when you walk around anyway, you see a poster and you kind of just go.
They're everywhere. Those
Everywhere.
posters that you speak of are
And,
everywhere.
and this is something that's legal in South Africa. But
And yet, yes, people still opt for the
the back
illegal
door.
route. But Refilwe, let me bring you into this. You've been listening to Lebohang's story. She was 16 and you were 19 when you had your termination.
Yes.
What were some of the circumstances?
So I'd literally just come out of matric.
Yeah.
And there wasn't really much going on in my life in terms of just options. I've been accepted at university, but because I didn't have funding to further my education, I was more or less just hanging out at home, trying to apply for the odd part-time job. And then I got the very bright idea of falling in love. That didn't work out very well for me. And that's how I fell pregnant. And for someone as smart as me, I must say that I did a lot of really stupid things. The first of which was buying about 100 home pregnancy test kits.
Oh, wow.
And thinking that each subsequent
Were you in
result would be
disbelief?
negative. Oh, big
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, of
Because you never think the sort of thing will happen to you. And I
Yeah.
think another thing that made me feel so incredibly pressured was the fact that I had held so many leadership positions in high school. So someone as smart doesn't do something that's stupid, first of all. And then there's always just the negative association because you're not just representing yourself, you're representing your family and your community, and people
Absolutely.
will know what you've done, and you're scared that, you know, word might get out to your siblings, your friends, your family members. So a lot of it was perhaps a mechanism to protect my family from that shame or that stigma. But I took about 5.5 months before I finally made the decision to terminate. And when I went the legal route, I was told that, you know,
It's too late.
it's just progressed
Yes.
too far.
Yes.
But thank God there was Hillbrow. Because if I went to Hillbrow and they took care of it and I thought my problems were over. But you then walk away with a number of mixed emotions.
Yeah.
Because it's a sense of relief, but there's a physical pain, there's an emotional pain, there's a spiritual pain.
You need support. You can't
There's
talk to
regret,
anyone.
there's so many
Yeah.
emotions. Retrospectively, I think I might make a different decision today, but at the time at 19, with no economic prospects, no educational prospects, it seemed like the right thing to do.
How long did it take you to bring yourself to be able to tell someone?
About 19 years.
You kept it to yourself?
Yep. I've only just started recently, you know, sharing the story and,
Why?
and speaking
Why is
about
that?
it. Well, firstly, because it's deeply personal, and I don't think it's the sort of thing that people are entitled to know. I mean, you're not going to be making disclosures about something as intimate as an abortion. But I think being able to be honest about it and upfront perhaps will be encouraging for other people to perhaps reconsider the decision. I don't know. But the fact that I have gone through the journey, that I've got the healing, that I can speak about it retrospectively, I think is something that could be of inspiration to someone else.
Lebohang described it as quite a transaction. You know, you go there, no long questions, you just go in there and you do what's required. Is that the same experience that you had?
No, my experience was slightly different, actually. I was discouraged from having the abortion. And I remember the nursing sister calling me aside and saying to me, "Are you sure you want to go through with this? Do you perhaps want to reconsider?"
What did that do when someone was questioning a decision you'd already made that you found so difficult to already make?
Well, I can't imagine that it's very easy for them, you know, the nursing staff at abortion clinics, what they have to experience and go through themselves. And perhaps she was just the voice of an angel trying to prevent me from doing something that I might look back and, you know, perhaps not have good feelings about or regret. But my mind was made up insofar as I knew that having a child at that stage would have just been too burdensome for me and for my family, and might have prevented a lot of other future things from taking place, because now the priority would have been on taking care of the child, feeding, educating, you know, providing for the child, as opposed to pursuing my own dreams and ambitions.
Right.
So from that perspective, there's no regret. But I think in terms of the spiritual consequences and some of the other things I didn't know at the time, I might make a different decision.
So subsequent to that, were there more?
No, just the one.
Just the one?
Yeah, at 19.
Just the one. Well, I want us to delve into the other person, because it's not just the woman who has to make the choice around whether to keep the child or not, but we'll do that after the break. Well, we're not live tonight, and that's why we're not taking your WhatsApp voice notes, but please do feel free to tweet me and your views on @RealTalk3. This year, the Sexual and Reproductive Health Awareness Week took place on the 12th to the 16th of February under the theme Mind Your Business. But there's an imperative need for this to be an ongoing conversation, not just from a medical intervention perspective, but also those with personal experience, to help them break the stigma, and for all of us as a society to break the stigma. Stay tuned for more after the break. According to findings published in The Telegraph, the overwhelming majority of women felt happiness and relief in their decision, regardless of whether they had the abortion early on or later in their pregnancy. Lebo and Refilwe still are here with us on the couch. So what do you think of that? The fact that the majority of women who were surveyed, this of course has to do with the UK, did feel the sense of relief.
It's hardly surprising. I know I felt relieved.
I did.
Yeah.
I can't say happy, but it was like there's just a load off my shoulders.
Yeah.
You know, but I can't say I was happy. I was relieved, yes. I was like, phew.
So shame was the one thing that you mentioned earlier on.
Yeah.
But what were some of the other emotions that you struggled with?
It was regret. I hated myself. I felt like I murdered somebody, or I murdered the kids and stuff. And for the longest time, when I heard the word abortion, I would just shut down, type of thing, you know. And it was a lot of hate and thinking, oh my God, how could you do that level? And I think it hit me after giving birth to my daughter, who's 8. Right after giving birth to her, I lost my womb. So when that happened, it kind of hit to be like, karma, I don't know, but I was like, okay, so after everything, now I can't have kids anymore. But yeah, I've got a daughter and
Raising her happily.
And yeah.
So, Fulo, what do you think when you hear how Lebohang's describing it? Was it similar for you?
Initially it was, but I also then, because I'm such a curious person, whenever I'd see babies or young people who would have been the same age as my child, I would always have question marks in terms of,
what would
I
he
wonder
or
what
she would have been like?
It was always a she in my head.
Oh.
What would she be like now at this age? And you know, you wonder, you never really stop actually. And even to this day, she would be 19 years old, so you're thinking, wow, university. The questions are always there, but I think working through all of those emotions and just maintaining a sense of honesty is what helps you cope and get through it, because it's not so much about what other people think of you or what others will say.
It's what you think
A lot
of
of it is
yourself.
just the internal conversation and how you see yourself in the mirror and what you are putting out in terms of your own self-perception, I think is what needs to be.
And doesn't it have a lot to do with what we thought of abortion before having one?
So I'd say yes and no, because at my school, there used to be a campaign called Birthright, which would encourage teen or young and not ready mothers to rather give their children up for adoption as opposed to going the abortion route. It wasn't so much that abortion was negative, but people were encouraged to go the adoption route instead. I don't think I had any opinions about abortion per se that were either negative or positive. Again, I was just going back to what would have made the most sense for me. So I was thinking more pragmatically and just trying to be practical about the whole thing and not having, you know, emotion get in the way of making a decision.
And Lebohang, because you've had multiple abortions, the question of one surely should mean that you look at other options of contraception, even things like the morning after pill. Was that part of the self-blame?
Yeah, it was. And I think after my first pregnancy, I did go to the clinic to get contraception. And I was told, you should be in school. Like, what are you doing here, type of thing, you know? And I was injected, yes, but I never went back after that. And I started gaining weight. A lot of things started happening. Clearly because I didn't understand what happens when one takes contraception and whatever, because there was not enough knowledge around it, you know? And I thought, no, I'm not going to go back to the clinic. Morning after pills, I think again, when you engage in sexual activity, you kind of have, God, please can I not fall pregnant type of mentality, like, please can I just not fall pregnant? It's one of those things, like, it's not gonna happen.
It won't happen to me. And then
1 month down the line, dololo periods, and you're thinking,
because you're
oh
thinking,
my God,
my period
what
was
happened?
2 weeks ago, 28 days, where are we?
So it's just also,
you know, and you have that kind of silly negotiation to say,
and of course
chances.
there's condoms, but we know the issues with condoms and everything, you know, conversation for another day, you know, condom negotiation, the stigma around condoms as a woman, why do you want a condom, you're sleeping around, and we try sort of prove I love you to the other person by not using a condom type of thing, to say I'm faithful, whatever the case is. But then at the time, I really did not know many options to contraception, and which I feel is something that should be known by young women. You know, it's something that they should be getting educated about from school. These are the choices you have, and this is what you should be opting for, and your dual protection using both contraception and condoms and stuff like that, which is things I unfortunately didn't have. But I'm glad I'm in a place where I can educate other young women to make more informed choices.
Different choices.
I think perhaps it was just a very different time because we didn't have access to smartphones and Google and the internet where you could get a YouTube video for this and practically everything else under the sun. So we were relying on, at least I'll speak for myself, on what you get at the library or what you get from your guidance teacher, or well, not even parents actually, but just what your expert friends are telling you or what you read in the teen magazine. And those are not always very reliable sources of information. And so you make these decisions on very, you know, lacking information.
Limited
but you do the best that you can with what you have.
Yeah.
Let's bring the men into this discussion. Did you ever have that conversation about potentially keeping the baby, or what options were available to you as a couple now that you're pregnant? Because now we say you are pregnant as a couple, not the woman.
Well, not in my case, no, because the relationship didn't work anyway. And I've never really believed in that whole keep a man baby strategy.
Yeah.
So
Yes, girl.
I figured I was just...
It don't work.
No, but it didn't work in the 80s, it didn't work in the
It's not working
90s. Like keep a man baby is never going to work.
No.
So I figured there is no point in having this conversation because we're not even in a relationship, right? Healthy or not, there is no relationship to speak of. But I got into a relationship with someone else. And oddly, it was him who encouraged me to have the abortion. And I don't think it was so much around, oh, he doesn't want to take care of someone else's child. I think it had a lot to do with just our prospects as a couple and where we saw ourselves going. And I have him to thank or blame for the abortion because if he weren't there, I probably would have carried on, you know, stupefied, doing the silly things that I was doing till full term. But he intervened. He's the one who took me off to Hillbrow. He's the one who gave me the money. He's the one who was making sure that the process actually goes through to completion. And oddly enough, I had a conversation with him just a week ago, telling him about the whole journey and what I've learned and, you know, the decision at the time being 19 and listening to him and everything. But I think conversations with men are necessary because women don't fall pregnant by themselves.
Absolutely.
And B, abortion is something that would affect the men, particularly if the father of the child wants to keep the baby and the woman decides otherwise. So it's very important in the context of just, I suppose, open disclosure to make sure that they would be part of that conversation too.
Yes, and it is a difficult question, as you say. Where does his opinion start and end? Because it is still your body, you're half of that relationship. How did those conversations go down for you, Lebogang? Was it ever broached at all?
No.
Or did you feel that this is mine to make and that's it?
Well, with the first two, it was just the other one, he denied it. He was like, no, it's not my child. You know, do what you have to do. And then with the other guy who was married and I didn't know, he, of course, was like, you're going to have to do this. And I'm going to give you the money to do it. And he wanted it to be done type of thing, you know. But like Refugio says, to a certain extent, men should be part of the conversation, but at the end of the day, it's your body and it's your choice whether he wants the baby or not type of thing, you know. And it should get to a point where a woman can just say, yes, I understand you want the child, but this is where I'm at. This is what I want to do type of thing. And most men, I don't even think are interested in having that conversation.
Really?
I don't know, right? But I posted something on Facebook today asking about, there was a quote I saw of a man saying, stop being murderers, something, abortions, whatever, and I shared it and I'm like, your thoughts? And a lot of the men were like, yeah, Vele, it's you being a murderer and whatever. And it was a lot of the men who were saying it's wrong, it's dirty, and you guys must just die, things like that type of thing. You know?
Yeah, very hateful messages.
But, at the end of the day, it's your choice as the woman, but have the conversation if you're in a space to be able to have the conversation with your sexual partner or whoever it is that you're pregnant.
So past the first one, did you find that it got progressively harder, or were you numb to the process?
No, it got very easy. The first one was traumatic. It was very, very traumatic because I almost even died. It was very traumatic. The second one, I was like going through a local newspaper and I saw a clinic and then I just went, you know. But I was doing this all secretively. My mom found a slip somewhere in the house and called the number, and then she found out, okay, this is what had happened. But it became a norm. Even with my daughter now, I was in matric when I found out I'm pregnant with her, and the first thing that I thought was, let's not keep the baby. But then my baby daddy then insisted that we keep the baby, which I did, and I thank God he did, because Tsogofatso is really a blessing. She's the reason I'm the person I am today.
More stronger, trusting in your voice, bold enough to write a thread that causes quite...
And there's still more to come.
There's still more to come, and a book nogal. But let's talk about the relationship with our parents then, with our families.
Yeah.
Because I'm a mother of a 20-year-old. And you know, when you think about your child getting sexually active, these are some of the things that you want to be able to have them know that it's comfortable enough for them to talk to you about, not just about sex, about contraception, and about a situation where they could fall pregnant and where an abortion might be an option. So did that ever even exist, the channel, even the option of saying, you know, Ma, this is what's happened?
I'm looking at you stunned because I'm thinking to myself, which planet are you from? Like, you're clearly one of those modern mothers.
Yeah.
Like, you have to be for even thinking about having that conversation.
You know, but at the same time, we must extend our minds to understanding that the likelihood of that generation also having done it is very real and very high.
Yeah, it is.
But they were not the sort of people who would disclose that sort of thing. Those generations wouldn't feel comfortable, I think, even having conversations with people younger than themselves. Perhaps in the context of peers, they might make those disclosures. But my mother's a medical doctor and my father, so both my parents, it might have made more sense for them to give me that information, but I never got it. So whether as a mother or as a medical doctor, it never came about. And that's why I'm saying, clearly, you are a modern mother, because my mom was old school like that, and you don't have conversations like that.
I think you'd be surprised when you're an adult woman and you're a daughter, the relationship changes, the dynamics change, because you now share this journey of womanhood and the things that come about to a product of womanhood, which is having sex without protection, falling pregnant, making decisions like abortion. I think by then, when you're an adult, the dynamics are very different.
Sure.
I'm not saying go and do it if you're not ready. But I think it could be a great source of support. I love your openness, both of you. It's been a pleasure having you here.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
Well, the conversation on abortion is still very taboo in our society, and this is often due to people's ties to religious orthodoxy, which has further alienated women who often need help, often need a platform to just vocalize what they're going through. Well, Rachel Vineyard runs a retreat in Cape Town where they offer support around abortion for women who need it. We'll find out about it after the break. Welcome back to Real Talk. Rachel's Vineyard is a retreat with facilities all over the world and is offered to men and women who are dealing with the effects of abortion. Angie Faronkathan runs the Cape Town facility of Rachel's Vineyard, and she's here to tell us about the retreat's mission. Welcome, Angie.
Hello, thank you.
So this is a very special retreat, obviously a very safe space.
Very safe space, yes.
What is the mission?
So Rachel's Vineyard, as you said earlier, is all over the world. And it offers a place for women to go, and men, that have suffered from the effects of abortion. And not all people do, but there definitely are a lot of people that do suffer from this. And so for me, I had an abortion when I was 23. I was living in Jersey, actually, the Channel Islands. And in those days it was illegal, and I went to England to have an abortion. And from that moment, I felt quite numbed, and my behaviour after that was quite extreme. I mean, in Rachel's Vineyard, we talk about our experience. So I'm obviously not going to go too much into detail, but lots of things happened in my life, and as I look back, I can see it was directly linked to the abortion and the numbing that happened. And so later on in my life, I've realized that maybe I needed a bit of help, so I went into various kinds of therapy, and we spoke about the abortion. And the therapist suggested that maybe I go into it a bit deeper, And so I did a bit of research and I found out about Rachel's
I
Vineyard.
see. Interestingly, I don't know what you think of this view, but some research suggests that there are no mental health issues
Yes.
as a result of an abortion, but your
Yeah.
situation suggests
Yeah,
otherwise.
well, I promise you, if you just came on one of our retreats, you'd hear. The Elliott Institution in America has done quite a lot of research. And there's a Martha Shuley who's done loads of work on this. So I think, you know, it happens. There are loads of people that do suffer from having an abortion. And all the retreats are full. So there are people, but not all people.
So describe that numbing. What do you
numbing-
mean by that?
Well, I felt dissociated from my body, really. So it didn't really matter what I did with my body. You know, it just felt that I wasn't connected. And I had 5 miscarriages later on in my life. And each time I kind of blamed myself. You know, there was this whole thing of feeling worthless, actually.
Wow.
But I mean, obviously, I've worked things through now. But going on this retreat changed everything for me. But I have to say, before I flew there, I thought, what am I doing? Why am I going there? It's crazy. But when I got there, it was amazing.
What kind of perspective did it help you to have?
Well, I just found my peace, actually. And it was very, very healing. The woman that started Rachel's Vineyard was a psychologist, Dr. Teresa Burke, and she's written a book called The Silent Scream.
The silent scream. That's chilling.
Chilling. But she, in her practice, she could see that the people that had an abortion, she wasn't helping. It wasn't working. Talk therapy wasn't working. So she came up with this retreat. So it's been going for years.
So what's so different? What's different? Because as you said, talking on its own doesn't
Well,
help.
you know, it's like on our retreat, it's there. It's more visual and audible. So it touches different parts of you. So I mean, you can talk your head off about your abortion and how you felt, and you know, and you do the whole kind of therapy thing. This is not therapy. On our retreat, you're not going there for counselling. It's totally different.
So what are you visualizing? What are the images?
Well, we have we do meditations.
Yeah.
It's based on the Bible. So many of our meditations, you know, are of women that have suffered in the Bible. So you can identify with that, and it's incredibly beautiful.
So is it for believers,
Well,
Christians?
yeah, that's always like a bit of a dodgy question, really, because it is Christian based, but we've had everyone come on, atheists, every kind of faith. So it's not about judging anyone. It's about loving and caring and supporting one another. And in our group, of course, everybody knows how you feel.
Right.
So it's a safe place to be able to say, you know, all those things. And I think you said earlier about, I know about the stigma. There's still a huge stigma.
Yes,
And
even though
even
this was yours happened decades ago.
Over 40 years ago.
Yeah, yeah.
And really, I don't really see much difference, to tell you the truth.
There are men that come to this retreat.
Yeah.
I was talking earlier to
Yeah, I
Refulo and
know.
Lebogang about
Yes.
the role. Where does it start and end? The voice of the man.
Yeah. Well, like you say, there are men whose partners have had an abortion, and they're devastated by it. You know, as a father. So we've had those men on. We've had grandfathers. We've had fathers of daughters. We've had brothers coming on. You know, it can affect a lot of people, but as I said, not everyone. But there are lots of people out there that suffer.
As far as brothers and
siblings.
fathers and grandfathers.
Oh, we haven't had in Cape Town, but you know,
Yes,
all
around
over
the world.
place. It's all over the world.
And
Yeah.
what do the men express about? Is it an expression of the loss they've suffered?
Yeah, and feeling kind of powerless themselves, really. On our first retreat, we had a man, and it was actually really an eye-opener to see how he had suffered. Because I think I would have had the same our thoughts is, you know, as,
Lebohang's view that it's my body, no one's going to tell me what to do with it. You have no say over what decisions I make.
Yeah. So it's very interesting.
And the dynamics in the relationships, do you find that they change?
Oh, yeah. You're talking about when they come on the retreat?
Yes, and even just beyond the abortion, what the dynamics are like.
I mean, it's always interesting because when they come on the retreat, they're usually terrified. And it's like, what am I doing here? You know, like I felt. And they are kind of quite closed. And what happens between the Friday evening, because it starts Friday evening, and then on the Saturday lunchtime, you start to see them changing, as Rafila will tell you. And on Sunday, by the time they go home, it's amazing.
Yes.
Because what we do on the retreat is we make our children come alive. And so we name our children, and we give them the dignity, and the women the dignity to move on with their lives, so it brings closure.
A lot of people would rather forget, isn't it?
Yeah. But I can assure you, we had a woman of 80 come on our last retreat who she hadn't told anybody since she was 19 when she had her abortion. Never told anyone until she came and sat with all of us. I mean, it's such a privilege to do this work.
I'm surprised that you say that, or this is the process towards helping with the healing, because a lot of people cope by shutting out those memories, by locking them away somewhere. And it's a coping mechanism, and you're saying open them up,
look at them,
that
deal with
person a
them,
name.
grieve them, and then, But look, it's not for everyone. A lot of people do their own work. A lot of people don't feel the same way. But I can assure you there are loads of people that do.
Right. And I guess healing comes about in different ways for each one of us.
It does indeed.
Wow, Angie, thank you. So there's another retreat coming up, right?
Yep, we've got another one coming up in Cape Town in November, and then we're opening up in Johannesburg in October. Is it October? Yeah,
right.
October. So there we are.
There's another one coming up in case you need to reach out. Well, the stigmatization around termination of pregnancies is clearly at the root of the very systems that are supposed to nurture the rights of women. After the break, we'll find out how private abortion clinics have stepped in to assist women and how global politics further imposes on the rights of women to reproductive justice. We'll be back after this. Welcome back to Real Talk with me, Azania. If you've just joined us, we're discussing the issues affecting safe and stigma-free abortions in South Africa. Dr. Tlaleng Mofokeng is currently running a reproductive clinic in Johannesburg, and she serves as the vice chairperson of the Sexual and Reproductive Justice Coalition. She joins us on the Real Talk couch, along with Sister Brenda Bamuzo, who has been providing abortion services for 11 years, and she's now a regional manager at Marie Stopes here in South Africa. Good evening to both of you.
Hello.
Hi.
Where to start? There are just so many issues to interrogate because you both work in this reproductive health space for women.
Yes.
But Brenda, let me start with you because you've been doing this work for many, many, many years.
Yes.
And it comes with its own fair share of challenges.
Yes.
But at the same time, we have to protect women in light of all these backstreet abortions that we have.
Yes.
There is this readily, freely available, these drugs that are being administered left, right, and center. One of them I hear is Cytotec.
Yes.
What is going on the ground?
The problem is we don't have the control measure as the country. Cytotec is a Schedule 4 drug. For you to access it, you need a prescription. However, people are still having their own illegal way of accessing it. And because of it's a Schedule 4, it's not like Schedule 6 and 7, where somebody will come from the Department of Health to do the monitorings and everything. So there is a bit of a loophole there. So because of that, people are accessing it to make money out of the disparate pregnant women. And others are not even using Cytotec. They're using the name Cytotec. They can even give you but using the name Cytotec.
Right.
And the poor woman doesn't know what's the difference between Cytotec and you know, when you're disparate, you think you want the situation to be solved and not actually knowing that what was given to me, it's not actually going to serve the purpose.
Yes, and it's not safe for you ultimately.
And if you can look at it all those adverts are everywhere.
The
But
stickers
if,
are all
yeah,
over.
if today I can just put a poster there and say, guys, I'm selling nyaope for 50 rand, I'll be arrested before the end of the day. But people are putting all those posters everywhere, and this thing has been going on. It's like how I feel as a provider. Women in South Africa are still judged. Women in South Africa are still not respected.
Right.
Women in South Africa are still not protected.
Even though
yes.
in this country we do have laws that say you
21
can
years
go
of the law that
for-
has been there.
Yeah.
We still seeing that. And what I feel is, what did we do as a woman to deserve this? The very same woman who brought you into this world is the woman who's treated like this too.
Yeah, I can see your passion. I can see the passion that you bring to your work every single day. But, Tlaling, let's talk about the risks, the harm that can potentially befall a woman if she does go through a backstreet abortion or is exposed to such drugs,
Yeah.
even the counterfeit versions.
And I think that's the most important thing we need to keep in mind, you know, no matter how desperate we get, you know, an abortion procedure remains a medical procedure. There are certain, you know, clinical examinations that need to be done before one can be performed. There may be further investigations needed, sometimes not always necessary, you know, and there are protocols that need to be followed in order for this to be done. And therefore, I don't know if people are aware that, you know, the Choice on Termination of Pregnancy Act is the only act that actually regulates a medical procedure in South Africa. So that already tells us the magnitude of the problems. And of course, with any medical procedure that's done outside of a health facility with people who may or may not even have any idea of how to do, always carries a bigger risk.
Yeah.
From infections that lead to generalized sepsis, and people do end up in ICU because of that. Sometimes people bleed overly because, I mean, with an abortion, you do expect bleeding for it to happen, but
Yeah.
the bleeding can complicate and be a bit too much, in which case people may require blood transfusions. And I think a lot of the times when we speak of complications, you know, we always focus on the deaths, but there's a lot more women, we heard from Lebogang earlier on, who undergo hysterectomy at very young ages, and that affects their future fertility. And again, in South Africa, we don't have really much access in the public service to assisted fertility. So you find that people's, you know, reproduction is really affected by having unsafe and often outside of health facilities and by illegal providers.
Absolutely. And we know for a lot of women, as you talked about, desperation. We're burdened by abusive relationships. We're burdened by lack of finances. So often we make these poor choices as a result. So is it possible to have a free abortion?
Yes, it is possible to have a free abortion. As Rest of South Africa, we are having a program of a waiver system. It's a waiver system. It's a subsidy system. So basically, we are looking at this woman. How much will this woman afford? And if it comes to the level where a woman cannot afford anything, the woman can get that 100% waiver, because our vision, we don't want to turn any woman away.
And speaking about the reasons, you know, why different women, you know, require abortions, and I always speak about the different patient profiles.
Yeah.
People have a certain idea of what a person that requires abortion looks like, or what kind of situations they should be in. In South Africa, between 0 and 12 weeks, any person who's pregnant can request an abortion for whatever reason. And often you don't need a reason to give to a practitioner when you require an abortion. And again, it adds to the stigma and this burden for women to perform victimhood when they require abortions, because firstly, we want to know, why can't you afford this baby? Why do you now
I want
suddenly
you to
say
say it
you
again,
can't?
actually. Say it again. You don't need a reason.
You don't need
to provide a reason.
Between 0 and 12 weeks, a nurse, a trained midwife,
Yes.
and a medical doctor can offer you safe abortions within health facilities. Whether people can literally access that in South Africa, we know that unsafe abortions outnumber safe ones 2 to 1. So that speaks to the issues of accountability and access from the Department of Health, you know, in terms of implementation.
Yes, and it says a lot as well about what government is doing to ensure that there is this access. We heard from Lebogang about the kind of treatment that she received, about why don't you want this baby, all that judgment. So are we doing enough to train the professionals involved?
No, the stigma is systemic, and it comes from the top all the way down. And it's whether, you know, literally some abortion clinics are put at the back of the clinic where no one can see them or even know they're there. There's no signage. And when there is signage, it's written TOP. People don't know what TOP stands for, you know. And often, again, because of foreign aid funds, abortion care was disintegrated from the bigger sexual health clinics, whether you're looking at, you know, adolescent programs aimed at adolescent young women, whether you're looking at HIV programs and all the campaigns that happen. all the abortion care and information has been left out of that. And that's why I'm saying the issues of anti-choice and lack of access, they are systemic. Even the health professionals themselves stigmatize the service by stigmatizing their other colleagues who are offering the service.
And there's that conscientious objection, the option that professionals have in
well,
this
that's,
space.
that's really dishonorable and really, I mean, that's really disgraceful. There should be no such a thing, because people went into medical school or nursing colleges voluntarily.
Yeah.
Right? Conscientious objection was something that was there for people who were being forcefully enlisted in the military. And this is a very different situation. And the issue of that conscientious objection in South Africa only finds its way in abortion care. People don't conscientiously object to treating prisoners who've been convicted of murderers, because they understand even they have human rights, right? People don't object to treating drunk drivers who've killed people on the road, because they understand that even those people have human rights to access to care and dignity. So the same should be for women. You know, we have research, we have protocols that have been developed, and this shouldn't be overcomplicated by culture, religion, or some morality.
I absolutely love that analogy. I love the analogy about drunken drivers and the lot. Well, thank you so much to both of you for adding your professional voices to this discussion. Well, after the break, we have a look at our Huawei hashtag Real Talk moments for this week. Welcome back to Real Talk. We've been capturing moments and connecting with people every week on the show with Huawei and Yanez Vermeuren as part of the hashtag Real Talk Moments campaign. So let's see who Yanez will be connecting with this week.
Real Talk is proudly sponsored by Huawei P20 Pro and MTN.
Cool, we got our Huawei goodie bag ready to go.
Dad, where are we going?
Okay, so life's all about sharing special moments and connecting with people, and today we're going to a place called the CHOC Foundation. It's kids with cancer, and there's a young boy there, he's 9 years old, he's got terminal cancer, and I just thought it would be important for you at your age to connect with this young child and realize that there's kids out there that aren't as fortunate as you.
Yeah, for sure.
Ready for it?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, we're on our way to visit Kamogelo in Soweto at the CHOC house. Now, he's apparently too sick to actually leave the house, so we've decided to bring the surprises to him. This is going to be another one of those very difficult days for me. I've got a 14-year-old son. We're dealing with an 8-year-old boy, 9-year-old boy who's been very sick. He's been through a horrendous ordeal. He's got cancer, and he's fighting hard to hang on.
CHOC is a national NPO that assists children with cancer and their families. We have social workers that we employ that are based at the pediatric oncology units. They are basically there to take the parents right through the journey and to make sure that, you know, they fight on, that they don't give up.
There's not a boy out there that I know that doesn't like superheroes, and I know that Kamo loves Batman. So it's not often that I get into a Batman suit, but for this occasion I'll do it.
I'm very excited to see my dad in a Batman suit. I think it's going to be really funny. Dad, you do realize that you can't be Batman without the Batman voice.
I am Batman. Do you like my voice?
Pretty average.
Hey, is it scary?
Okay, let me just see what I look like here. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Okay, guys, I realize, I mean, look at this. I make a very old Batman with this grey beard. Look totally ridiculous, but it's not about that. I know that most boys love Batman. Kamo's a massive fan of Batman. And what I've learned from this initiative is if I can just give a little bit of hope, a little bit of motivation to these young kids that are sick, then I've done my job.
I know that Kamo's been very sick lately. He's been fighting really hard, and I'll be there to give him some support.
Hello, Kamo.
Oh my gosh! Who's that?
I am Batman.
I want to meet him.
Nice to meet you.
Oh my gosh.
What's your name?
Kamui, he's a happy child. He's a strong child. He's a loving child. You know, he's just a happy boy, a strong boy.
It's Christmas time. I've got a whole bag full of goodies from Huawei for you, presents for you. We can open those up later.
Okay, we can open them later.
But I've heard
it's a surprise. He's very excited about today. He didn't know what was going to happen, although he had a clue. But he knew today was going to be fun somehow. And yeah, I can see already he's just having the time of his life.
A special moment indeed. I think that's what life is about, sharing special moments, connecting with people. smile on his face when he saw Batman. I think he was a bit awkward at first, but he loved it. And he even wanted to have a photo with Batman. Boys and phones and games, they're addicted. This must have been such a difficult journey for you so far.
Yeah, it's been a roller coaster of a journey actually. But yeah, it started over a year ago in February 2016 when he was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. At first, I didn't know what that was. Before he was diagnosed, he was swollen around the neck, so I didn't know what it was. I took him to different doctors. They gave me different diagnoses, you know, like toothaches and stuff like that. But his neck kept on growing until eventually I took him to the hospital. They did some tests, and soon enough, you know, they gave me the worst news ever.
Kam was a wonderful young boy. He's a little shy and reserved in the beginning, like most kids are. He's a boy's boy. Boys like having fun, boys like superheroes, and boys love magic.
Oh my goodness! Are you a crazy magician? We got a big nut, have a look at that. That's cool, we got magic salt.
Nice.
It's got a coin in it. So you go
Ooh.
chuck, chuck, chuck.
Oh,
Oh,
nice.
chock, chock, chock. Oh, what a time. And we got a rope.
Oh, nice.
Nice, give it a stretch. All right.
For kids, it doesn't matter where they come from, what they do. All kids want to do is play and smile. You just want to give them a little bit of hope, a little bit of sparkle of life. It's the small things in life that count. You don't have to go and give them extravagant gifts. It's the simple things in life. Put a smile on a kid's face and they'll be happy.
The best for me was watching him with the magician. You know, he was just blown away. He's never seen such tricks in his life, you know, only on TV. So that was fun to watch.
This is the little ball trick. You put it in your hand, you give it a squeeze. When you open your hand, it disappears, okay? Let's move over here so everybody can see. Are you ready? Open your hand, it disappears. Wait, we go like this. Can I borrow this one? Put your hands here like that and put this one there. That's mine, that's yours. That's mine, that's yours. Ready? Which is mine?
This one.
You sure? I think
Yes.
they're both mine. This one's fine, that one. Uh-oh!
The hashtag Real Talk Moments campaign is all about connecting people. It's about sharing special moments. For me, all I want to take out of this is I just want to make sure that he has a fantastic day, that he enjoys the magician, the magic tricks and the gifts that we've brought him. And all of this wouldn't be possible without our partners, YWay and MTN, and of course Real Talk, the platform.
For me, the highlight of the day was to see Kama's smile when he saw the magician, and he was truly amazed by his tricks, and it was such a pleasure to see him be happy.
I'm so happy, like you guys have no idea. I'm so happy. Seeing him this happy is just everything.
Did you like the magician?
Yes. Magician.
He was good, eh? He was the best. You've been fighting, eh? You've been very sick, but you must never ever give up. You're like a superhero.
We'll never ever give up.
Okay, we're gonna give Azania a nice message.
Thanks for the best day ever.
Thanks for the best day ever.
Azza, I'm here with Kamo. He's the strongest little fighter I know. He's gone through a very difficult time, but this is what life is all about. It's about connecting with people and sharing special moments. It's great for
Real Talk is proudly sponsored by YWay P20 Pro and MTN.
Well, the competition is still running, so keep watching at Real Talk on 3 and keep those entries coming to stand a chance of winning a Huawei P20. And this week's theme is the journey of healing. Keep an eye on our social media pages to see who this week's winner is. But more importantly, let's also continue to educate ourselves on unsafe and illegal abortions. Thank you to all of my guests for the courage to share their story and the contribution on tonight's episode. So let's keep this conversation on abortion going. From all of us here at Real Talk, it's a great evening to you. Good night.